Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Sunday Afternoon Smokes, your casual conversation podcast from the upstate of South Carolina. My name is Chris. I'm your host. I'm a realtor. I'm also the owner and operator of The Cigar Box, a mobile cigar bar that serves the upstate and beyond. Most conversations are enjoyed over a cigar while I interview the local entrepreneurs, business professionals, and entertainers that make the greater Greenville area one of the most popular places to live. Today, I get to sit down with Daniel Keown. And, man, it's my habit just to let my guests introduce themselves. That way, then say as much or as little about yourself as you like. And while you do that, I'm going to light my cigar.
All righty. Well, my name's Daniel Keown. I'm originally from Oconee County and traveled around a lot and then finally migrated back here. And I'm a custom knife maker, and I kind of dabble in the comedy world here in Greenville.
Okay, awesome. And we're smoking two different cigars today. I am smoking the A.J. Fernandez Nicaragua series. And Daniel is, there you go. Yeah. Is this your very, very first cigar?
Yeah, very
ever.
First one. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm honored that your very first cigar is on my show. Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
I'm honored as well. I figured it now would be the time, you know?
Yeah. I'll let you go ahead and I'm going to yammer just a little bit about this cigar. And you kind of got it right there. You just kind of toast the foot a little bit, run it around. And then, yeah, you're probably good to start taking a few puffs. You might want to add some fire while you puff.
Okay.
Just to get it good lit on your first go. And it's just kind of like drinking through a straw.
Yeah.
You know, it's just kind of fill up the mouth with smoke, exhale out the mouth or out the nose. I'm smoking, as I said, the A.J. Fernandez Nicaragua series Rothschild. It's a Nicaraguan Puro. This is a nice medium stick, some spice, maybe touching on medium full. All the tobacco in this cigar is from Nicaragua. I expect peppery notes, leather, spice. We'll see how it goes. I gave you a Montecristo, and that's kind of like a half Corona size. It's short, it's thin, and want to give you anything just monstrous to smoke on your very first cigar. It should be kind of mild, medium, but it should be good. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
You know, I'm impressed. I don't need another expensive hobby, but
yeah,
it's not bad. You know.
Yeah. Well, we were chatting just a little bit before the show, and you said that an opportunity years ago presented itself for you to smoke a cigar, but you took a pass on it.
Yeah. Well, I was in Nashville. I went out there with the good buddy of mine, and he's kind of in the safari hunting scene. And there was a big safari expo out there, and he said, "Man, come on out. We're gonna have a great time." And luckily, I talked another buddy of mine into going, and the safari expo ended up being like $500 to get into, and we thought it was gonna be like $50. And I was like, "Man, I'm not paying that." So me and my other buddy kind of went around and did our thing, and we got invited to this cigar lounge after the Safari Expo, and we kind of walked through. It was kind of like this Ray Liotta scene out of Goodfellas. Like, we just get ushered all the way in the back, all the way down the stairs. We're blowing past all these like super rich guys, and not really my scene anyway, but we're down in this private room with an international arms dealer, and South African elephant hunter, and two Instagram influencers, or like a couple that was a Instagram influencer couple, and then we got offered a cigar there. And a buddy of mine's kind of like a teetotaler, never does anything, doesn't smoke or drink or anything, and but they asked us if we wanted a cigar, and I was like, "Nah, I'm good." And then later he tells me that if I would have said yes, he would have said yes. So it was kind of a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, that's a rare opportunity in life. It just, I mean, those players all gathered in that room, you know what I mean? And then, like you said, just kind of this Ray Liotta scene out of Goodfellas is just kind of wild, you know, so that, but today, if you're going to smoke for the first time, Sunday afternoon smokes, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm looking forward to seeing what you think about it. Now, by the way, I originally met you couple years ago at an event over at Blackwater Roasters
Yep.
in Seneca. Shout out to Blackwater. That's a great place. It's a great
Absolutely.
coffee shop.
I'm not sorry to interrupt, but I'm definitely a coffee snob. I've been really big into coffee for a long time, and when I moved back out here, I was kind of like, man, I'm going to have to order all my coffee in, and I have like a few roasters, around the country that I've liked and I've ordered from before, and I was like, it's going to be such a pain. I'm going to have to always order my coffee. And then I stumbled into John Boy and his business, and it's been really great because it's top-notch coffee.
Yeah. Well, number one, what I have just in my time interacting with John Boy and Annie and Stephanie and other people that work there, number one, they're good people.
Yeah.
And so it's a good company run by good people, but the coffee's great. And that was one of my questions about that I was going to ask you, because I've seen you there on several different occasions, and I didn't know if you were super nerdy about your coffee or if it was like, I just want something better than the crap you get on the store shelves at the grocery.
Well, I'm just a coffee snob, like in general. So like, honestly, them being nice is just a plus. Mm-hmm. If they were nice and had bad coffee, I wouldn't go there.
Sure.
There's a farmhouse down the road, and their coffee tastes like cigarette ashes, and they're real nice, but their coffee's terrible, so they don't get my business.
Yeah. So when you say you're kind of a coffee snob, or not kind of, you say you are a coffee snob, what does that mean to you? Like, are you nerding out on the process, or what is it?
I mean, a mixture of everything. I mean, like right now I'm kind of in the middle of a house build, so I'm mainly just doing French press, which is nothing, but I have a really nice espresso machine. I've in the past had multiple siphon pots. Like I've pretty much made coffee about every single way to make it, and really like cigars, like, you're chasing flavor profiles, and you're chasing like, I like this aspect of this, and you're tuning in water to weight, to grind, to steep time ratios. I mean, it's a very big
all that matters.
Yeah, it's a very big rabbit hole to get into. So
right. I mean, I love French press coffee. That's like my favorite way to make it.
I enjoy it. I mean, yeah, it's nice. I like siphon. It's kind of more of a pain, but I like siphon. I got a Turkish buddy that I worked with, and I started making Turkish coffee with like a really nice Turkish coffee pot. And he told me that he hated Turkish coffee until I started making it. So
what is
that? They've really finely ground the coffee, like super fine, and then it's made in this little traditional pot. The pot that I got was from specialty Turkish coffee out of Louisiana or something, but it's made out of real copper. It's silver lined, really nice. So like $150 pot for like 2 servings, maybe 1 serving. And but you don't filter the coffee. You just pour it with the grounds and everything, and the grounds settle at the bottom, and then you drink it. So it's kind of like an espresso shot, but the grounds are at the bottom, so you just have to be careful not to drink the grounds, which is sometimes not super easy
creates
to do.
a bolder coffee. I've seen videos on social media and stuff of those guys, like this little cup, but they're like having this hot sand kind of thing, but I don't even know what that is.
That's gimmicky.
Sure.
It's what happens is you end up with sand in your coffee, and it's just a gimmick. But
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, there's easier ways to control the heat than hot sand. I mean, I think there's a lot of hot sand in Turkey that they can put coffee pots on. So
that's very true. So speaking of flavor profiles, you're a big chaser of anything that falls in that genre, whether it would be cigars, which really aren't your jam, but coffee. You just said you're a big Scotch.
Yeah, I like Scotch. Beer, nice beer.
Yeah. Are you do like wine and rum and all that too? Or?
I've dabbled in, I'm not quite the wine connoisseur. I mean, I do enjoy nice wine. I'm not as educated on nice wine. My girlfriend is practically a sommelier, so she She's very knowledgeable on it, and I like really respect like her take on wine, because it's similar to like how I feel about scotches or coffee or whatever else, if not more so, because she's actually been professionally trained on it. But I do enjoy nice wine. I've got to really be in the mood for wine. Rum, I only drink it if I'm in the mood to fight. I'm kidding, but I do like nice rum. I used to make a cheerwine mojito with Havana Club wine, I think was the name of the brand.
You mean rum?
Yeah, rum. Sorry, but Havana Club I think was the brand.
Yeah.
And I made a nice cheerwine mojito out of it. It was real nice.
So what is it about the Scotch that really pulls you?
Well, it's super dynamic. I mean, like, you know, a Speyside region Scotch, especially. I'm not a big Isla region.
Which is what you've got.
I'm not a big Isla region because it's real smoky, which is probably bad to say on a smoking podcast. But, you know, there's like Campbelltown, there's Isla, there's Highlands, Lowlands, Speyside. I think there's another one. But Campbelltown's like, it tastes like salt. And then you've got the real smoky, peaty stuff in the Isla region. Highlands isn't too bad. It's kind of on par with Speyside. And Lowlands is mainly a bunch of blends. But with Speyside, you get this like big sherry cask hit. So it's like big sherry bombs. A lot of times you'll have flavor notes like Christmas cake or like cinnamon or vanilla or chocolate, and all these different things. So that's kind of what I like about it. It's almost like a dessert.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times low calorie dessert that can make you lose your license. But other than that,
that sounds, that's fun. Before we get more focused into topics about your life and what you do, I want to venture into something else, which, you know, you kind of warned me beforehand, and that's totally fine. I know you are a consumer of the Joe Rogan Experience, you know, this podcast. I've listened to quite a bit of JRE myself, and on that show they talk a lot about psychedelics, psilocybin, microdosing, just all that stuff. And you said that beforehand, nothing's really off topic, but if I ask you about psychedelics or politics, you're going to run off on a tangent. And that made me laugh. I thought it was funny. So let's talk about psychedelics. But for the record, so you know, I am wholly ignorant on this subject. Okay. I just want you to know who you're dealing with. I've never once in my life smoked marijuana. I've never used CBD or THC. I've never even used a pen or chewed a gummy. I have no earthly idea.
Okay.
So,
well, there's a psychedelic revolution starting in this country, and it's kind of spreading around, but there was already a revolution kind of happening in the 60s and 70s. And what that did in the 60s and 70s is it ended kind of at the beginning of the 70s, but what it really did in the 60s was it promoted art, it promoted design, it promoted us kind of thinking like, oh, maybe certain people actually need civil rights, you know, maybe we shouldn't go to wars and kill people for no reason. And they couldn't handle that. They couldn't handle people having these thoughts that maybe we should be more compassionate to each other and everything else. And in the 70s, that's when there was this sweeping psychedelic act that banned a lot of things like LSD and mushrooms and psilocybin. But what they're realizing now, what that did, the worst thing about it is that they made it Schedule 1. So what it did is it made it to where we couldn't research it anymore. Several years ago, there was, and I don't hold me to hard on dates, but there was some time ago that they were studying MDMA, which is basically ecstasy, and they were studying it for depression, suicidal ideation, and basically depression, and they were giving people this, and it was showing huge promise. And it kind of got leaked out and then turned into a party drug, which is not really the best use of it. And the DEA shut it down. Well, it was curing people of suicidal ideation, curing them. and they shut the research down. Now it's kind of coming back. There's a lot of veterans organizations, which I'm not a veteran, but there's a lot of veteran organizations that are now pushing psychedelics, whether it be psilocybin. Ibogaine getting real big. Joe Rogan recently did a podcast on Ibogaine, which you have to kind of go out of the country, and it has to be a very regulated thing to do it safely. But mushrooms in general, which is probably the most accessible to the most people, would change the world if they would let it. I mean, It cures people of depression. It opens you up. Like you're messing up somewhere in your life. Somewhere in your life you're messing up. What psilocybin does is it lifts this veil where you can't lie to yourself anymore. And you have to be honest with yourself. And that's what a lot of people can't do. And even if we think that we're being honest with ourselves, we're not.
Sure.
And in addition to that, it's just a beautiful experience. It's front loaded with tons and tons of beauty. And then you deal with some like pretty hard things. And then at the end, I tell people it's like a warm blanket that hugs you and tells you everything's going to be okay. And if you've ever heard about mushrooms or LSD or any of these things, and you kind of think, oh, well, I've heard that's bad. I heard we're talking about something that has no liver toxicity. It has no addiction potential. You are
just natural things.
You are hurting. Well, LSD is kind of synthesized from natural things.
Mushrooms.
But mushrooms in general, but arsenic's natural, so that's not the best argument. But, Zaxby's is not natural. If you were to eat Zaxby's, you are safer health-wise eating 4 grams of mushrooms, which is a huge dose, than you are eating a chicken finger basket from Zaxby's.
Sure.
So it's better than alcohol. It gets people closer together. It's a beautiful experience. And if you're dealing with depression, if you're dealing with PTSD, if you're dealing with any of these things, like having issues forgiving people, whatever, if you're in any sort of issue, venturing out into the woods with a couple of grams of mushrooms in a safe environment, understanding exactly what you're getting into. If it's your first time having somebody with you, would be helpful. But yeah, I mean, it could change your life for the better.
Sure. We have the idea, and I understand why. I mean, it's the most common example, but we have the idea of our soldiers coming home from war, and that's, PTSD, and it certainly is, go through this traumatic experience. But PTSD is not relegated to military. Like if you have, for whatever reason, horrible childhood trauma, maybe you had a massive car wreck or something went wrong in your life, and you have those moments where things just kind of set you off or whatever, that's symptomatic. I went through a divorce and been served papers by my former spouse on a number of different occasions. And it's a mild thing, but I was telling a therapist that I worked with, months and months ago, I'm like, been served with papers 2 or 3 times, and I got to the point where, like, I was really jumpy anytime somebody knocked on my door or rang the doorbell.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh crap. Well, what is it now? Like what kind of papers am I getting served with now? Coming back to, here comes ambulance.
Yeah.
Fire truck. Hopefully the background filters, they do a really good job, pick most of that up. But anyway, it would immediately send me into this emotional state. It's like, what is it now? Back to court, and he's like, that's PTSD.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if we have things out there, whether it's, the psychedelics in a controlled environment, with people who know what they're doing to help you through this, I don't know why we're not doing that.
We're not. Well, makes you not want to pay taxes. But,
there's a lot of things that make me not want to pay taxes.
But no, I mean, that's a joke, but really, it's it lifts a veil. It really does, and I think it's going to change. I mean, I really do. I think that there's too much evidence out there.
Mm-hmm.
For the longest time, we've been told that, you take so many hits of LSD, you're legally insane. Well, who's telling you this? Pfizer? The people that are trying to sell you an SSRI when you're suicidal?
Yeah.
And the one of the symptoms of this thing, a side effect, is suicidal ideation. Like, you're suicidal now, and they're going to give you a pill that's going to make you more suicidal. Like, you're not going to make it through the week, buddy. And everybody wants this like quick fix. Like, what mushrooms do, first off, it front loads you with a lot of like actual serotonin. And you get this huge boost of serotonin that gives you enough happiness to like get through the week, and it tapers off at about a week, so you don't have this like hard crash. Okay, so instead of just like your body like accepting a little bit, like accepting the serotonin that you naturally have a little bit better with these SSRIs, you're it gives you like extra serotonin, and then also if you're going into it to be introspective. And you're going into it to like, okay, how could I fix myself? And you have a little bit of intelligence, you're going to figure out like, okay, I know for a fact I'm doing this too much. I'm on my phone too much, or I'm not taking care of my kids, or I'm not doing this or whatever. And then you're going to start attacking those things and taking care of them. And there's a lot of people I know that within the past year or two have gotten into, taking mushrooms, whether they're taking altering trips or not, or just low dosing, and it's changed them for the better. I mean, night and day difference. Mm-hmm. Watched a guy go, a buddy of mine I've known for years. He got really upset on a job we were on, and attacked a superintendent and hurt him pretty bad, and then to fast forward until now, he's a completely different man, and in a positive way, and not so quick to be pissed off, and not so quick to anger, and it lowers people's propensity to violence by 90%. Our government didn't mind going to Tuskegee and doing the syphilis trials where they injected people with syphilis and studied them, but we can't take psilocybin into war-torn ghettos, basically, that people are killing each other, and try to be like, hey, brother, you're destroying your own community here, like, because it would change things. It would change everything.
Well, the more that's studied and learned, and the more positive that comes out of it, you almost, those two tangents, psychedelics and politics, you almost can't discuss one without the other.
Well, yeah.
But the more studies that are done, the more proof positive examples that we have. Kind of roll that ash off of there before you try to relight that. Yeah, just there.
Like off the edge here?
Yep.
There we go.
It kind of acts as an insulator.
Yeah, there you go.
Want to get to fresh tobacco. But the more studies we do, the more results that we see from patient to patient to patient. All of that as it comes out, and we see that this is a net positive and we're helping people for the better, it's going to force their hand.
Yeah. Well, and I
hope so. I
think what's going on currently, because RFK is on board with psychedelics. So if he starts pushing that research, and I don't agree with everything he does, obviously, because I don't agree with everything any politician does, because I'm very center and I hate them all. And they're all out to screw us one way or the other, but hopefully one pushes something more. And I just hope that because people are so adverse to RFK, that the left, which is generally kind of on board with psychedelics, I hope that they don't pull back because they hate RFK so much. I hope that they just let the research go forward. Ibogaine, in particular, which I've never done ibogaine. It's like I said, it's one that you really have to go to a place that is knowledgeable on it, because there's like a heart risk with it. It's like one of the more risky ones. But there's safe ways of doing it. It's curing people of opioid dependency disorder. So instead of being on this methadone train until the day they die, which is really it's just their whole plan anyway, they take one treatment and they're cured of opioid dependency disorder. And so there's our fentanyl problem gone.
Right.
Gone with ibogaine. So,
well, we'll see. We'll see what happens, man.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Time will tell.
Yeah.
Well, at this point, let me just simply ask you, the listener, wouldn't you like to elevate your special moment with the cigar box? Since you're craving premium cigars for your next function, let me bring the luxurious cigar experience to you. Whether it's a celebratory gathering, a relaxing backyard barbecue with your neighborhood, or a corporate event, the Cigar Box offers a curated selection of the finest cigars brought directly to your location in a custom-built teardrop-style cigar trailer, showcasing 100 individually displayed cigars in a classy cedar-built rolling humidor. Feast your eyes on our curated selection featuring top and boutique brands. Enjoy personalized recommendations and expert advice. You can get me direct at 864-207-2316 or visit mobilecigarbox.com to learn more and fill out the booking inquiry form while you're there. So let's move on to Keown Fine Folders. You are the founder / owner operator of Keown Fine Folders, and before we dive into it, tell us how people can follow you on social media, and if they're interested in your services, what's the best way for them to find you or get in touch?
The best way is either through my Facebook, which is just my name, Daniel Keown, Keown. I post a lot on Instagram, but Instagram is flagging knife accounts pretty hard.
Really?
They'll flag us for drugs more than about anything else. I post a knife and they'll flag it as marijuana, which is ridiculous. But on Instagram, because I'm shadow banned, so you'll have to type my full name out before I'll even pop up. But it's KEOWN underscore FINE underscore FOLDERS. So you have to type the whole thing before I'll even pop up.
That's crazy. It's a stupid algorithm. It's not even a real person looking at this. It's obviously a knife. It's not marijuana.
Yep.
I don't know what's up with that.
It's peculiar, and we've been fighting against it for a long time, and it's very annoying.
So Facebook's a better place for you.
Yeah, I mean Instagram's probably where my best content is. So yeah, but either or, I would prefer the Instagram,
right?
Because that's where you kind of, if you have more followers on Instagram, it kind of means more type of thing, and I do post better content, but like I said, I'm shadow banned, so I'm still posting, but it is what it is.
It's hard to, you got to dig through the weeds to find you. What's the website?
Well, for
the Fine Folders.
Well, and then I do have a website that is KeownFineFolders.com.
Okay. So,
and that one will pop up pretty easily. If you just typed in Keown Fine Folders into Google, it should pop up.
Right. So do you take commission? You do commission jobs, or you just make what you want to make and then sell?
Well, so I've changed up a lot of what I was doing because I was getting overwhelmed with orders and it was taking me too long to get to people. So what I've started doing is I've started taking a set number of orders a month, and then if I can fit anything else in the meantime, to like working on prototypes or trying to do knives for knife shows, I do that. So this past month I did 10 custom orders, and those filled up pretty quick, and I'm kind of picking away at those. And then so my goal is to kind of do that 10 orders a month, 10, 15 orders a month. And then the rest of my time I'm either prototyping or designing or building knives for upcoming knife shows.
Right. So you have a pretty, the things you shared with me, you have a pretty extensive background in art and wood carving, pipe welding, quality control, which we may get into later, but all of that combined to bring you into the world of knife making in 2015.
Pretty much.
Ish.
Yeah.
So tell us about that journey or that moment, or,
Well, I mean, I went to I was always into drawing, like when I was in elementary school, and ever since I was a kid, I remember drawing and being decent at it, even as a kid. I mean, obviously, if you were to look at my stuff and grade it to an adult standard, you'd be like, this guy sucks. But as a kid, I was decent. And I went to this wilderness camp in Oconee County for troubled youths. Basically, I was class clown in class, and teacher didn't like my humor, I guess. But so I went to this wilderness camp, and they taught us to wood carve. So I don't know why. It was just something to occupy our time. And I really enjoyed it. And I did it off and on when I got out of camp. I mean, even as an adult, I would piddle around with wood carving, and I was wanting to get back into carving. and I was just looking up carving videos in 2000, probably early 2015. I was looking up carving videos, and I saw this knife built by this knife maker, ivory carver out of Ohio named Ernest Warther, and he had, like, turn of the century started carving and carved the evolution of the steam engine, and he ended up dying like in the 70s. But he had this knife with interchangeable blades, and it had this little door that you opened up in the handle, and then blades would fit in the handle. It was really cool. And I was like, well, man, I want to get that knife. And like the next sentence, as soon as I think that I want to get this knife, they say that the knife is for family members only and unavailable for sale. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not one to like not have anything that I want, within reason. Obviously, I don't have like a Maserati or anything. But, so I started researching knife making, and I just jumped on Facebook and got on this, like, I just looked up knife making like groups, and the Texas Knife Maker Guild popped up. So I clicked on that and I started asking questions, and I asked a couple of guys on there if they would build it. One guy told me he'd build it, but it'd be $1,500. And I was like, oh, okay, well, there you go. And I was so naive. I didn't understand even what the mechanism of the knife was. It was a slip joint knife, but I had no idea even what the mechanism was.
Well, see, I don't even know what that means.
So a slip joint knife is like just a typical case knife that's non-locking. That's a slip joint. So
that will fold back.
Yeah, like
without
a pocket
okay,
knife.
I was going to ask you about that later. Okay.
So a pocket knife that just, like a case knife that just opens up and closes, doesn't lock, that's a slip joint. And so I didn't even know that's what it was called. I had no clue. And I didn't know what bolsters were. I didn't know anything. And so I ended up buying a drill press, building a belt grinder, building a propane forge, and doing all this in my little garage. And when I was living in Utah at the time, just did it all in my garage. Set up a portable bandsaw as like a fixed permanent or a fixed vertical bandsaw, and my first knife was, for what I was working with, and the knowledge I had, was pretty decent. I mean, I got lucky. I mean, looking at it now, it's very crude, but it's a hell of a first knife.
Sure.
And I was hooked. I pretty much was like, this is what I want to do. And I was traveling for work at the time, and I was in California working, and then I ended up going to Pennsylvania, and I finally bought a place in North Carolina. So I started building a shop there and just kept researching. This whole time I'm just researching knife making. I build one knife, I'm buying tools and doing a ton of research for like 2 years. And then I build my shop. So my second knife, by the time I built my second knife, I had a full-size bandsaw. I think I might have had an extra grinder by then. And then I had a surface grinder, a pantograph mill, a vertical mill, a heat treat oven. I mean, like, I had $20,000 worth of tools and hadn't even built my second knife. And so the second knife was really crude, honestly, but the third knife was decent. So in the whole time, it was a big trial and error of learning how to machine. So it's, I'm rambling, but it was a very interesting path to take. And I was lucky that I enjoyed it as much as I did, even after getting all those tools. Cause there's a lot of guys who buy up a whole bunch of tools. They're going to be knife makers. They watch Forged in Fire, which is a scam show, but they watch Forged in Fire and they're going to be a knife maker. And then they buy $20,000 worth of tools, and the next thing you know, they're selling it on Facebook Marketplace. Right. So
yeah, what do you mean by Forged in Fire is a scam show?
Oh, I mean, it's like I don't know. Take any profession. If you were to see a show about it, it's going to be nonsense.
Sure.
So like, if John Boy's an EMT, there's probably a lot of nonsense that happens on these EMT shows. So, I mean, or think about like a cop show. Think about if you were a cop.
I don't know, man. Listen to some of the EMT stories over at Blackwater. It sounds like a wild place.
Yeah, I mean, but it's like, I've talked to a buddy of mine because he's in law enforcement, and I was talking to him about Forged in Fire, and he said he hates the show, and I told him I did too. But I said, imagine a cop show, but everybody on the show is pretty much the worst in the industry. And there's a few exceptions. But just being on the show in general automatically elevates you to this level. A lot of times it's not deserved.
Well, that's true, because you have to consider the number one factor for a producer and a network to put people on TV is that person has to be able to have good entertainment value.
Yeah.
Not necessarily knife making skills. We're looking for entertainment personality first.
Yeah.
And then
and they also have it's a very limited market. So they only have a very limited amount of people that can do this. And the really, really high end guys, they're not going to shut down their shop and travel all the way to where they need to go and bang a knife out. And here's the deal. Like most reality shows, they're somewhat skewed in one direction. They have an idea of what they want. And I've only watched a couple of episodes of it, but it's go grab this material out of this bucket and make a knife out of it. Well, you grab the wrong material, then your knife breaks. Well, if you're a good maker, if you're a really good maker, and all of a sudden half the world sees you snap a blade on TV, like that's not going to help you. So, like I said, there's a few top guys that have kind of went in there and done their thing and done really well, and I'm sure that there's I don't watch it enough to understand it, but like I'm sure there's a few top guys that have went in there and failed early, too. So, I mean, it's just reality TV.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's why. I mean, I've watched the shows that my buddies have been on, and that's about it. So,
have you ever made a cigar knife?
Well, I did. I made what's called a smoker's knife, and it's got a nail file because you guys have dirty fingernails generally. And I'm just kidding, but it's got a nail file, and it's got a pipe stem cleaner, and it has a cigar fork, and then it had 2 pen blades, and I brought that to Blade Atlanta 2022.
Okay, so the cigar knives that I've seen that I'm interested in, it's probably a slip joint. But a lot of the ones that I really like, it's on the blade. You know how they have that extension lever like would be on a straight razor for shaving? They have that, and it opens up, and then up near the quote-unquote front of the body, it has like a half moon carved out right there where you'd set your cigar and you'd close the blade.
Yeah, I've seen those. I haven't built one like that, but I mean, I've been a hell of a lot easier than my smoker's knife I built.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm very interested to talk to you about a project like that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to have something like that was super sweet. I mean, you can pick them up online for probably cheap. You can get even some nicer ones, probably around $150 or so. But I'd be interested in just having a custom order done. And
and that's one thing that people need to realize about like custom knives is like there's a lot of guys that I meet. They might carry a knife, but they'll be driving a $150,000 car, and they'll have a $20,000 watch, and they'll have a $100 knife in their pocket.
Yeah.
And it's like, that just cheapens everything.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to have a nice car, nice watch, you got to compliment everything.
Mm-hmm.
Your shoes are $600, but you're carrying a $50 knife. Right neck down the street, its transmission's about to fall out of his truck's carrying the same exact knife.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a luxury item for sure. But it's a talking piece because like people, it's such a niche community that when you really get into it, you realize how much goes into them, and it's a bunch.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Are you familiar with Dan Eastland of Dogwood Custom Knives?
I'm not.
So I interviewed him, I think, last week. I think his episode drops tomorrow. But he makes kitchen knives, chef's knives, which are all fixed blade instruments, obviously folders, and I told him I was interviewing you, and I think he knows who you are, just probably through online.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, and I knew this, but fixed blade knife, folder, totally different animal.
Yeah.
And there's so many different kinds of knives for various purposes one can make. So what was it to you about a high-end, fine folding pocket knife that you said, this is where I want to be?
When I first started building knives, I never once thought I'd ever sell one, ever. I built that carving knife for myself, and my goal was to just build cool old knives that you couldn't find. That was all I ever wanted to do. I just wanted to build cool old knives that you couldn't easily buy because they were either super rare or maybe the examples that were out there weren't that great or whatever.
Yeah, you already answered a question I was going to ask later about the beginning. Was it like, oh, I want to do this and I can make money at it, or was it just, I love this and this is awesome?
It was a pure passion and a hobby, and that was it. I mean, I never once thought I'd ever sell a knife. And people were trying to sell me a knife. I'm like, man, they're not there yet. They're not ready. And the first 2 knives I ever sold was in California at a blade show. And the guy that bought them was an editor for Knife Magazine. And the first 2 knives I ever sold got into a magazine.
Oh, that's cool.
So that kind of lit a fire under me. And I was like, well, maybe this is possible of pursuing. And I sold both those. Both those knives, they were $600 a piece, which is I was over the moon for, but it's, now my stuff goes for, quite a bit more, but I never once thought that I could make, I thought maybe I could help pay for my shop. I didn't really think that I could turn this into a career, that I could actually pretty much quit oil and gas and go into knife making. So that's, I just kind of stumbled into it. It's honestly the best thing that I've ever done as far as, quality wise. I was never this good of a carver. I was probably this good of a welder. I was a very high-end welder, but I was never this good of a carver. I was never this good of a sketch artist or a painter. I enjoy those things. I'm respected in the knife community where nobody even, I don't even have a name in painting or sketching or wood carving. So people know who I am in the knife world.
I think that's probably where some of the best entrepreneur style businesses come from. It's from people who have a passion for a hobby in their personal life, and then it turns into a business because they're constantly striving for better, because it's a personal passion.
Yeah.
You're probably going to run into the wall at some point in time where even your passion and your love turns into work. You're going to have those moments, but overall, you don't have that regular case of the Mondays, if you will.
Yeah.
Because it's just, man, I love this and this is what I do. And now you've been able to take what was a passion and turn it into, you've been able to monetize it.
Yeah. I mean, it still feels like work some days.
Sure. Yeah.
But I would much rather be at my shop hanging out with my dogs than at work at, a refinery or power plant or something. And I enjoy power plants probably more so than refineries, but I enjoy being at home where I can give my dog a kiss on the head or something in the middle of the day, where I can't do that when I'm at work. So.
Are your knives, are they, because you brought up slip joint, do you do both? Like the slip joint or the locking?
I'm actually working on a locking knife right now. I was working on it when I left. So it'll be my first lock back. And I'm big into vintage Sheffield, England style knives. Sheffield, England was kind of the true cutlery headquarters of the world for a long time. And then when American cutlers started building knives, they imported a lot of Sheffield cutlers over, and a lot of American pocket knives have a ton of Sheffield, England influence. So right now I'm working on a vintage Sheffield lockback design.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I think about a year and a half ago or so, at one of the events at the coffee shop, I heard you talking about trying to get some of your product into the hands of Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Were you able to accomplish that?
Not yet. I'm closer to that. There's a podcast called Kill Tony, and it's a comedy. It's like the biggest live comedy show in the world, or something like that. I don't know exactly what their claim is now, but it's pretty big. And so Tony Hinchcliffe and Brian Redband are the two big guys on the show, and the producer is a guy named Yanni, and they all three have one of my knives. So that's Rogan's inner circle.
Yeah.
And it would definitely be interesting. I don't care if he ever even says he owns one of my knives. That's not the purpose in it. The purpose in it is, like, I respect what he's doing, and he's really opening people up to a lot of different things. And I understand he appreciates fine work, and I would like my work appreciated by somebody like that.
Yeah.
But other than that, like I said, it's not for fame, or not for him to mention it or take a photo of it or anything else. It's just I think it would be cool.
It's nice to have people that appreciate your craft.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's pretty sweet. So I heard you say earlier that, you take, somewhere between 10 to 15 orders a month.
Yeah.
Ish. So walk us through the process of, concept, design, material selection, then actually making the knife.
Okay, so a lot of them I try to get on established patterns on a few things. So there was a man named Tony Bose in the custom knife world, and he's passed away. He passed away in, I believe, 2020. And Tony the custom slip joint world would not be where it's at without Tony Bose. I mean, Tony Bose is an absolute legend. He'd done a bunch of collaborations with Case. And so there's a lot of these established patterns that Bose created. And he created a pattern called a Warncliffe Trapper, and a pattern called a back pocket, and a couple other things. And so a common trend for up-and-coming knife makers is to stick to established patterns, because it's hard to, like, establish yourself as a maker with new patterns, because the pattern might not be well received, but even if the pattern was good, it's not going to be well received because nobody knows who you are. Okay, so a lot of times what guys will do, and it's the path that I took, and it's a path that some people I've mentored have taken, and it's paths that my mentors took. So what I did for a while was I would build Bose style patterns, like Warncliffe Trapper, back pocket a lot. I would build those patterns, and then they would sell because people enjoyed those patterns and they were established, and they liked to have one from every maker. That's kind of like, it's weird in the knife community, but that's kind of how it goes. And then I would mix in some different things. Like I built the smoker's knife for blade one time, and then I built a lamb's foot knife, like sway back lamb's foot knife, kind of Sheffield Englandish. And so, sorry, I did those things, and I kind of leaked out like what I was wanting to do. And then I built a old Sheffield knife that had tortoise shell on it. It had scissors. It had a file. It had a corkscrew, and then it had 3 blades. And
is that the knife that's on the homepage of your website?
Yes.
Yeah. That looks sweet, man.
Yeah, it's a good knife. I actually had professional photos taken of it recently, so those photos will get updated. But but basically, once I built that, I started saying, okay, I'm just going to start designing. And so I designed before I built that knife, I designed this knife, but I've designed a knife that I call the City Fighter. And I'd melded basically 2 designs together. So we're all kind of like influenced by the past. Like, so knife makers like me in this day and age, we're standing on the shoulders of giants. Like we would not be where we're at today if it wasn't for all these other guys that laid the foundation. So there was a maker named Bob Lovelace that made a city knife. He called it a city knife, and it had a certain frame design. And then there was a maker named Jess Horn that created the Horn Fighter. And so I made a knife called the City Fighter that I took the blade of one, the frame of the other, and kind of melded them together and kind of cleaned up a couple of things and kind of put my own flair on it. But it's heavily influenced by these two makers. And then I turned it into what's called a flush joint. So when it's in the closed position, the tang, which is what, basically the blade pivot, is flush with the top of the bolster, which is very difficult to do. A buddy of mine says I shouldn't waste the time on it, but it's
your
cool.
mark.
Yeah. And so flush joints, they're very common, but they are a pain to build. But I made it as a flush joint, and it's a hit. It's a beautiful knife. It's very functional. It's built as a slip joint. I plan to build a lockback with it soon, and I kind of want to have a few variations of it. But that's one way that design happens is you find characteristics that you enjoy of different knives. You kind of use those lines and kind of go from there. Another way I design is I look at a lot of old patterns and I kind of modify them. So like maybe this needs to be flared out more. It looks real good, but if this was pushed out a little further and this blade was longer, this attack angle was a little bit better, or the nail nick was in a different spot, it would clean it up. And so you take kind of modern viewpoints on knives and then you clean up ones that were designed in the 1800s, and then you can really build something that's pretty neat. So that's how I approach it.
Mm-hmm. So what about when it comes down to material selection? So there's different steels.
There's definitely different steels.
Obviously, you've got oodles of material to choose for your grip or the outside, whether that's wood or some type of resin or...
Yeah. I try to stay away from like resin type stuff. I'm either dealing with micarta, which, in a sense, it's kind of like resin. They call it, they would pump it with phenolic, and a lot of times they will have what they call rag micarta, which is just a whole bunch of rags that's soaked kind of in a resin, but this stuff's very old. It's not like traditional epoxies. And you get all this character in the knife handle. They have like paper micarta, which is literally layers of paper stacked up and pressed with a binder. But I like natural materials. I've been doing a lot of jigged bone recently. So you're taking cow bone, you're dyeing it, you're texturing it, and it's a lot of work because you got to like constantly dye it and make sure that the dye is not rubbing off and everything else. But the end results are pretty wild. Deal with a lot of mammoth ivory, and stag. I'm not a huge fan of working with stag just because nice stag's really hard to find now. It used to be like sandbar stag from India, and they banned the import, or the export. I think the Indian government banned the export because they were burning forests down to find the stag. But yeah, so that's that. A lot of times it's kind of like what fits the knife. Like these Sheffield knives, I would never think about putting like a modern material like micarta on it or carbon fiber or anything like that.
Because it's supposed to be old school.
It's supposed to be old school, and it needs to stick with that. So as far as blade selection, there's a whole bunch of ones to choose from. There's some pretty respected ones in the industry. CPM 154 is one of them. AEBL is what I'm using currently, which is a very old stainless steel. And then there's one called RWL 34, which I plan to switch to eventually. It's a very nice material out of Europe. And then I've used, for carbon steel blades, I've used A2 tool steel a bunch, but I'm going to start hot bluing more. And A2 doesn't hot blue, like hot bluing for for like guns.
What is?
It's basically hot salts, super hot salts. It's the same way that they color a gun.
Is it strictly just for the color, or does it?
It gives some corrosion resistance.
Okay.
It gives some corrosion resistance. So I'm going to start hot bluing more. And A2 has a little bit of a blotchiness to it that's, it's hard to, it takes some really doing to get that to clear up. So I'm going to try a few different steels and see if I can get that blotchiness worked out. And then so I can have a solid color with the carbon steel.
Okay. So take us through the actual manufacturing now.
Okay, so you'll cut parts to shape, and then you will what's called a nail nick. So like if you've ever opened a pocket knife, you put your fingernail in that little groove and open the knife. So I'll cut the nail nick, and then all the holes will be drilled. I'll wrap everything in like heat treat foil, and then it goes into the heat treat oven. So it's in the heat treat oven for probably 2 hours. It gets up to like 1925 degrees. You pull it out, you quench it between aluminum plates. Then you pull it, once it hits room temperature, you pull it off of that. It goes into liquid nitrogen. And it's in liquid nitrogen for about 2 hours. You pull that out, you let it hit room temperature again, and then the springs go into the oven again at like 1,000 degrees roughly, and then the blades will go in to another oven for at like 350 degrees. And they'll do that 2 hours twice, and then your parts are pretty much ready. And then what you have to do is you have to surface grind everything, because everything has to be perfect thickness and has to be perfectly flat. So you'll surface grind everything. That takes forever. It's probably the worst part of the shop. And then you'll do what's called timing the spring. So you're making sure that in all three positions, because a custom knife has three positions. It has open, it has half stop, and it has, and closed. So the spring has to be dead flush on the back of the knife in all three positions. If it's low, if it's high, it's unacceptable. So that's time consuming, and you have to do all that. So once that's done, then I grind the blades. So I grind the bevel on the blades, get that completely done, and then make sure everything's acting right still. And then I do what's called integral bolsters. So the bolster and the liner material are all one. So it's not just a lot of knives, the bolsters are soldered onto a liner. But with integral, it's all one piece. So it's a 3/16 block of steel. It's 4/16 stainless is what it is. And we have to heat treat that too, because if you don't heat treat it, it warps and it doesn't machine as nice. So you have to heat treat that as well, surface grind that as well. And then that gets milled with a vertical milling machine. And then you mill those liners down to where they're about 30 thousandths thick. And then the bolsters are still there. And then you pull those off, and then I'll contour the bolster. And then I will glue up the handle material. And I've started using a different glue that takes forever to cure, but it's very strong. So I glue up the handle material, and while that's glued up, I will hand sand the blade, and I'll grind what's called the swedge, which is like the false bevel on the top of the blade. So I'll do that, and then by the time that's all done, usually the glue's set up. And then whatever I need to do with the handle material from that point, if I need to shape it or whatever. And then I relieve the inside of the frame. So if you open up a case knife, you'll see there's scratches all over the tang. So the part that's pivoting is scratched up because it's coming in contact with the liner. So we chuck the frame up in a jig, and then you touch off on with a end mill, and you dust about 8 thou, 10 thou at the most, the inside of the frame. So there's no contact point. The only thing that's contacting the tang is where you can't see. Then I bead blast that, so it takes away any machine marks, and then you have to flatten the frame on the bottom side, because you've kind of drew a burr a little bit, as well as you've bead blasted it so it's out of that zone. You just touch it off on sandpaper to get nice, clean, even lines. Then I chamfer everything on the inside, and then you pin everything together. Make sure everything's working right. You have to break in the knife before you pin it together, because it'll bind. So you want to make sure that there's nothing's binding or grabbing or anything else like that. So it's a super smooth action. Make sure everything's centered up. Then you pull it apart again, clean it again, put it all back together, and then you pin it together. And then after it's pinned together, then you've got final cleanup, which is just kind of truing everything up, making sure that you didn't mess anything up in the process. But so that's kind of a long version of, that's actually a short version of it, but
sure.
That, I talked for a few minutes. That takes a couple of days.
I was going to ask you from the very moment you start working on a knife from scratch until finished product is,
I would say like a simple knife with, I forgot this too. Most knives have a shield, so there's like a piece of metal of a certain shape in the handle. So before you pin it together, you have to cut the shield with the pantograph mill, and then you have to cut the pocket with the same mill. So it's basically you trace something over here, and it duplicates it on the other side. So while you're doing that, and then you drill a hole through the shield, and then put a pin through the shield, and then pin that over, and then clean that up. But I would say start to finish, you're probably looking at 15 hours, maybe 20 per knife.
Okay. And so
and that's a simple knife, single blade.
Yeah. And that means, just when I'm thinking about your orders, I mean, you're working multiple knives in the same stages of production at a time.
I've moved to that.
So that there'd be no other way to churn out 10 a month.
I've tried doing the one at a time, and it bogs you down. The best thing to do, and I've got bad ADHD, so the best thing for me to do is have a certain task in front of me, and I do that task for a few hours, and then I switch to another certain task, and I just kind of focus in on that task. When I have to jump from task to task, I lose a lot of time in between tasks. Mm-hmm. So if I can just say, okay, I'm going to stand here and I'm going to grind 5 blades, well, I can just grind 5 blades, and I can stay pretty focused on doing that. But if I have to grind a blade and then mill a frame and then jump over here, it really slows me down. So I've actually recently moved to trying to build more than one at a time.
Yeah. Let me circle back to the beginning of Keown Fine Folders, and just that moment when you ran across Ernest Moody Werther.
Yeah.
Right. Obviously, that was kind of the embryonic moment for what is today Keown Fine Folders. But what was the time gap between, you're making your first knife, which was, like you said, it was crude, and the second one, but where was the click between this is my passion and my hobby, and I'm making these two, all right, Keown Fine Folders as a business is actually a thing?
Well, so between the first knife and the second knife, there was quite a bit of time that went by. I probably made my second knife in 2020. So,
were those folders?
Yep, they were all folders. So I should have brought my first one with me, but anyway, so my first knife was in 2015, and then like I said, my second knife was in 2020, probably middle of the year 2020. And then I probably made my third knife maybe later that year. And then my second knife I built, or my third knife I built, or fourth knife rather, I built for my brother. And then after that, I built a knife for a friend, and I posted it, and I got a lot of buzz on it, and people really liked it, and they were like, oh my goodness, and then there's a legend of the knife community named Bill Ruppel. He's out of Texas. I mean, he's He's like Cutlery Hall of Fame guy. I mean, like real big deal. Great guy, super humble. I didn't learn as much from him, but I've got a lot of like things that I do in my process that came originally from him that was told to me by other people. But anyway, he reached out to me and basically told me that I should go to Blade West in California. And that was in 2021, maybe end of 2021. And I was like, okay. And so I got 5 knives ready. I was working on them late that night. And it was like not even my 10th knife. I made a opposing blade, like a blade coming out one side of the frame and a blade coming out the other side of the frame. It had a nail file, all this stuff, jigged bone on it. Couldn't sell it, but if I built that same knife now, I probably wouldn't sell it just because it's such a peculiar knife. But I really liked it. And I built that for the show, and I built what's called Texas toothpicks, and I built like 3 of them, and I built like a trapper. And I only sold 2 of the knives. I gave one of them to my brother, and the other one I took back home because it was really that was junk. It needed work. And then the one with the file on it, I gave to my mom. But I realized that I sold 2 knives, my first show ever. And I maybe broke even on the trip, maybe not. But I was like, this is something. I've got something here. And then I built a knife for a guy that I know in Idaho, and he was just over the moon with the knife. So I sold it, and it's like, man. And then I got a blade show table in Atlanta, and I only brought 2 knives because I was kind of like going through a breakup and moving out of North Carolina. And I sold both those knives like right away. And then Arizona Custom Knives bought one of my knives from me, and they posted on their website, and within like 3 minutes of them posting it, it was sold. And then that guy reached out to me and wanted more knives. So it just kind of started to snowball. And I was like, well, man, maybe there's something here. So I decided I want to get a bigger shop. Instead of, having such a big house, in a small shop, I want to have a bigger shop and a smaller house. I couldn't really find what I wanted, so I ended up buying this big metal building and started turning it into a barn dominium, which has been absolute chaos. But I do have a huge shop. And I'm like, if I got this big shop, I'm just going to start really charging. And I started. So, and I just started producing better and better work, and then it clicked.
Yeah. Do you have any really cool projects going at the moment?
Well, I'm building this lock back. I've got a pretty good idea for Blade Show. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do my full idea for Blade Show because it's got like 81 days until Blade Show, and I just don't know if I have enough time. I just finished a new pattern that I'm calling the Imperial Trapper, and that's getting a lot of buzz. So I'm just kind of chasing old Sheffield patterns. And like I said, I'm getting into lockbacks, and I have a pretty cool idea for this one knife that's going to be very classical designed, like what's called a Barlow, but it's going to have a nail file on the backside that's almost hidden when you're looking straight at the knife, but you'll flip it over and you'll be able to access a nail file that's on the back.
When you make the nail file, is that a product you order, or is that something that because they're all finely grooved and everything for the grinding? You make that?
I make everything. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I built the scissors, I built the scissors. When I did the corkscrew, it was all
out
of raw stock. So I'm shaping this stuff from Man,
building
stock.
a corkscrew must be kind of wild.
Building scissors is harder.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
How come?
Well, there's multiple pieces, so there's that. There's one part of it. Another part of it is the corkscrew a corkscrew is not easy, but it's not terribly difficult. I mean, you're just basically running a rat tail file in a spiral around a piece of metal.
That's fair.
And you're just having to be like very cautious of where you're at. But with scissors, a few things with scissors. First off, they have to mate up properly. Second off, there has to be a slight twist to the blade to where the edges kind of come in contact with each other. And then there has to be like a bend to the blades to where if you were to slightly close the blades but not close them all the way, that the tips are actually crossed. If you don't do that, it'll never cut anything. And then you have to like relieve everything around the screw, because if you have those two pieces contacting, there'll be like a lot of play in the scissors. And then there has to be a spring in the scissors, because if you just close the scissors, then you have to pry them back open. So there has to be a spring in the scissors. So you have to like cut in a little notch into that scissor. And then you have to tap and thread one side, and then you have to countersink the other side for the screw. So it's quite difficult.
And that's all hard to do because it's not a very small scale.
Yeah, it's on a very small scale.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very annoying.
Sure.
But I enjoy making scissors, and there's a scissor maker out of England named Grace Horn, and she is the best at making scissors probably in the world, and just a lovely lady. And she helped myself and a buddy of mine named Evan, which is one of the top makers in the world, my buddy Evan. She helped both of us make our first legitimate pair of scissors. I had made a pair of scissors-shaped objects before, but they weren't really scissors.
Scissor-shaped objects.
Yeah.
So anybody can go to Walmart, Academy, Bass Pro, and pick up a pocket knife. But obviously there's a vast difference between a Gerber, a Kershaw off the shelf, and a Keown.
Yeah.
So what are you providing to your clients that can't be found in the big box store?
Well, anybody can go to the gas station and buy Swisher Sweets as well,
right,
or Black and Mild.
Sure.
But so like, what are these high-end cigar shops offering that the corner store down here that you can, grab, a case of Busch Light and a Black and Mild on the way out.
Sure.
So that's one thing. One thing you're getting is you're getting an experience, and you're getting customer service that's going to be above and beyond anything you're going to get at a big box store. Another thing you're getting is you're getting a knife that's built to the nines. You can get it's easy to explain it in the gun world, because like there's various grades of guns. You can get a 9mm for $200.
Right.
But it's not going to be the 9mm you can get for $2,000.
Correct.
So that's what you're getting. And another thing is that not everybody can get these knives. I mean, and that's just the fact. That's just the facts of it. I mean, they are very expensive, and they're an investment, but not everybody owns a Rolex, and not everybody owns a Tudor, and not everybody owns nice things.
Yeah.
So, but if you can get those nice things, these are going to be, it's going to be the best knife you've ever had.
And it's going to be something that you're going to pass down to your son, to his grandson, to his...
Yeah, I mean, if you take care of them, I mean, they're heirloom pieces for sure. I mean, if you leave them out in the dirt or something, you drop it on a construction site, it's not going to hold its value.
Sure.
But it's but for sure, I mean, they're going to hold up. I mean, these things are built so your life can depend on them.
Right.
And I mean, I've built knives for guys, and I'm using a sharpness tester, and I'm checking my sharpnesses and all this stuff. And it's these things are the level, just the heat treatment alone and the material being used is already going to like add a ton of performance. The grind, the actual bevel that it is, then you add in like, I'm sharpening things up to like 200,000 grit and then going back with leather strops. I mean, I'm getting below 100 readings on a sharpness tester, and that's sharper than a double-edged razor. So you're getting a knife that is tuned up, ready to go, super classy. You pull it out of your pocket, people are going to take notice. They're going to be like, hey, what do you have? No, most people wouldn't even look at a pocket knife. But I've sold knives to people, they say that they show them to their buddies that aren't into knives, and now they want to be into knives.
Right.
So,
well, yeah, I mean, you are offering number one, a very high-end product with with high-end materials, with attention to detail, but also, like, if I go, I carry it's probably a $35 Gerber that I picked up at Academy, and it's great for just, opening a piece of mail or whatever I needed to do, cleaning my fingernails or whatever, right? But this is the offering, and it is what it is, versus if I come to you and say, hey, man, I want a pocket knife, and I want it to look this way, and I want it to have this function, and I want to use these materials, and that's what it means to be custom.
Yeah.
You get to I get to work with you for you to make a product that I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Last question on the knives. Then I'm just kind of taking a peek, and I have several times during the show since you came in, take a look at your hands. How much blood have you spilled in the workshop?
Not as much as I probably should have. Not too bad. I was what we call breaking in a knife. So we're opening and closing it a whole bunch with oil in too much oil really inside of the frame, and that's on purpose. We're wanting these mating surfaces that are really getting a lot of wear to kind of break in and make sure that everything's not going.
But you're doing that, right? You don't have a machine that.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
You're doing it.
I'm doing it, and so I had a knife, and I was just sharpened it. So I already told you how sharp my stuff is, which is ridiculous. I mean, I've had top collectors that have been around knives for their whole life,
shave with it
and cut themselves at my table, and they're like, "What the hell?" So anyway, I'd closed the knife, and I don't know what happened. My finger was in the way, and it smacked the back of my index finger right on the edge, and you could see like a nick in my tendon. It didn't cut it, but it just nicked it. And I was like, goodness. And it hurt for a long time. So I did that. I didn't spill any blood on this one, but my surface grinder is automatic, and it's got stops. So it kicks it back over when it's, gets to a travel point, and it hits a stop and it kicks it back over. And I was trying to adjust that while it was moving, which was stupid, but I thought my hand was out of the way, and it pinched my index finger. And it really hurt. It like basically messed my nail up really bad. And I decided I was going to run a test, and I took a piece of like 40 thousandths stainless steel liner material, and I was going to run it at the same speed and put that stainless steel liner material in that same spot to see how much force it hit it with. And it bent the hell out of it and bogged down the machine. So I could have snipped the tip of my finger off, or at least broke it, but I got real lucky. And the only other thing that's really happened is I had my pantograph spooling down. So I turned it off, and it was kind of spooling down, and I went to adjust something, and I run my it's always this left finger, to come think of it, but I run my fingertip into this little cutter, and it's like a 1/32 of an inch in diameter, which is really small. And I run my finger into that cutter, and I pulled my finger back, and it kind of tore my skin, but it didn't. I mean, I was bleeding, but it wasn't terrible. And the cutter was broke because they're real fragile. And so I bandaged it up, and it healed, and then it kind of flared up, and like it was like a callus. Sometimes like skin heals weird. So I like kind of snipped that hard skin away, and it healed again, and then it was hurting again, and did the same thing, and I was like, what the hell? And I clipped it again, and when I clipped it again, I felt something hard in my finger, and like that cutter was in my finger.
It broke off inside your finger?
2 weeks. So
dang.
I was able to pull it out, and I got a buddy that's a doctor, and I was going to have him look at it and just pull it out for me, but I was able to get it. But yeah, but other than that, I'm pretty safe. I mean, I don't wear gloves around like rotating equipment, which is a big no-no. That'll get you hurt or killed depending on what sucks you in. I wear safety glasses, when I'm doing anything that requires them. Probably could wear earplugs more, but
probably be a good idea.
But but other than that, I've been pretty safe. But I was I've been in industrial construction since I was 18. And in my industry, I mean, you're brainwashed into being safe. So you're not like, you're always like safety forward thinking. So I try to be very safe in the shop because I have a lot of machines that'll eat you up.
Yeah, sure.
So
I mean, I figure you probably grind off a piece of thumb, because you're grinding pretty close on those belts.
yeah, I've touched them, but I mean, the only time I've been bit real good has not been too bad. I've got a big grinder that I kind of like shape handle material with and kind of get thickness down. And I put a 36 grit belt on it, and it just runs wide open. It's a little ridiculous. It's so fast, but I've tapped my fingers on that, and that's kind of, but it's, you get away quick.
I bet.
So
I bet. All right. Well, hey, if you are looking to buy or sell in beautiful Greenville, South Carolina, because who isn't? If you're looking to buy or sell a home, I want to be the guy that helps you do it. South Carolina is one of the top destinations in the country right now. People are moving here in droves, and maybe you want to buy a home and grab the equity that will come in it over the next decade as the upstate explodes, or maybe you want to capitalize on the great need for housing and sell your home for top dollar. As a realtor with C. Dan Joyner and a member of Nexus Group, I'm your local expert. We offer a personalized experience, paying great attention to your needs, a service-oriented mindset, expert market analysis, and proven results. From downtown condos to spacious family homes, we'll guide you every step of the way. Let our experience work for you. Call me today, 864-207-2316, or visit my website, Chris Strother, that's STROTHER, chrisstrother.cdanjoyner.com. All right, man, moving here into the last section of the show. One point of interest that I know about you is that you decided a year and a few months ago to jump into the arena that is stand-up comedy.
yeah.
And that started January 24. So what's the driver behind that?
Well, I've always kind of been, joking around or class clown or whatever else. I mean, I would meet. I got a friend in Oconee, and they were. His name's Daniel. They know a few other Daniels. They separated me. Because how you have like designators, like which Daniel are you talking about? Carpenter Dan, this
Sure.
guy, whatever. I was funny Daniel. So like I've always kind of had that. I would always get people to laugh in crowds, and people would say you should do stand up, whatever. So I would start. I decided I'm going to do stand up, and I'd kind of kicked around the idea for a long time, but just never really did it. And then finally, just decided one day that I'm going to find an open mic, and I'm going to go. And I went to Comedy Zone in Greenville my first time, and I decided I'm going to go and I'm going to chase comedy and for nothing else other than just to have fun. Because a lot of things I say people think are outrageous or whatever, and they don't realize I'm just kidding. And I figured, well, if I go to a comedy show and I have a mic in front of me, they'll know it's just a joke. And that kind of works, but sometimes they still take things to heart. Like we're at a comedy show and there's a microphone, but whatever. So, but yeah, so I did that. And the first time I went up, I was extremely nervous.
Sure.
And I made it through it. And I had my brother there with me, luckily. And they had a whole bunch of autism jokes leading up to that. And I told them that I didn't appreciate that because I brought my autistic brother with me, but he's never been diagnosed. He's just really annoying. And so like, that's kind of what I opened with, and it worked. And then I kind of rolled into some of my real old material, but like and then I went back again, and I was like afraid to do the same set twice. Like I was like, I don't want to come to the same spot and do the same set. So I like wrote a whole bunch of new material for like the next week and said most of the new material, and it kind of worked. And then my third time, I went to Coffee Underground and I kind of tried the same thing, like tried to do new material, like something I wrote in the shower that morning, and I said it, and it bombed. And I was like really down because like not only did it bomb, I had a comedian like get mad at me for it. And I was just like,
that's strange.
Dude, you're a comedian. You're getting mad at me for telling a joke that didn't work, like whatever. So it was an edgy joke, but I was kind of like aggravated at the scene just because of that. Like, not like I didn't care I bombed, I kind of did, but I didn't really care I bombed. I cared that a comedian would get mad at me for just trying a joke. And I saw that comedian again, like a few days later. I went to like another open mic and we kind of made up and
what was his problem?
It was an edgy joke. I'll tell you later.
Okay.
But yeah, so anyway, but I just kind of kept doing it, and I got booked for a couple of shows. There's a guy that does some really good shows in the Greenville, Spartanburg area, and they're kind of trying to branch out, but his name's Super Dad Jones, and he's a really funny dude, and he puts on really good comedy shows, and he's booked me a few times. And it's a predominantly black show, and it's a predominantly black crowd, which I like because black people are like really ready to laugh.
Yeah.
And I think he only books me because he thinks I'm going to be there on time, But little does he know, I'm not. But anyway, he booked me for a couple of shows. And then there's another guy that does a comedy competition in Spartanburg, and it's like at the Dracon Mills area. And he's been doing this once a month comedy comp. And I went there one time and almost won, and then I went there the next time and won the comedy competition, and then I almost won the last one, but it was real close. It was like one vote I would have won the last one. But it so I don't do it as much as I want to. I really need to get back out there. I've just been real busy, and I've got some new things, and I need to kind of work on some of my old material too. But it's very fun. It's a fun scene. There's a lot of good people in the scene, and there's some really great audience members that come out, especially to like Comedy Zone and stuff like that. Obviously I've got a special place in my heart for Super Dad Jones shows because he just puts on a wild show. I mean, he's a wild man in general, but yeah, so that's pretty much where I'm at.
Do you have anything booked coming up?
No, not really. I hadn't really been pursuing it super hard. It'd be nice to get something booked coming up.
You've just been busy with knives?
I'm trying to build a house and build knives, and comedy don't pay anything.
Well,
so
I hear it.
I could call my buddies and run my bullshit humor past them.
Well, I'll tell you this, and I know, and you'll know it's true. If you're going to do any form of public speaking, which stand-up comedy is, it necessitates writing. And I have done a ton of writing in a past profession, and between, creating cigar content, as well as all of the back end work that I do for my podcast, writing sharpens your mind.
Yeah.
So what have you learned about writing and stand-up comedy in the process?
Well, I learned that if you have a thought, you better write it down and you better start working on it from there, because if you don't like get that on paper or a voice recording or something so you can like lock it in, at least lock in the thought or the premise, it's going to be hard from there. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, a lot of this stuff just kind of comes to me randomly, and then I kind of break it down, and then I try to like expand on it or give more detail, or sometimes it makes sense in my head and I run it past buddies and they're like, nah. Yeah. And I had this one buddy, and I would run stuff by him, and if he thought it was good, I would, it would be good on stage. But if he was like, I don't know, I'd be like, oh, whatever, dude, I'm going to try it anyway. And then it would bomb. And I was like, well, he's got a pretty good judge of things. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't really sit down and I probably should, but I don't really sit down and say, okay, I'm going to come up with something funny.
Okay.
It's not like that. A lot of times it's just situational stuff that comes up that that I find funny, and then I expound on it. I mean, yeah, I'm working on something. It might not work out, but me and my girlfriend took an Uber yesterday, and this is just a story. It's not a joke. It's not a premise, but maybe a premise. But the Uber driver, it's an older lady, and she had this song playing, and the genre I call it is ho gospel, because it was saying about being with a Southern man, and he kind of has a growl when he talks and all this other stuff, and that those kids might not be his, but he's going to love them like they is, and all this. And I'm like, and wow. It was like a really gospel-y kind of song, and talking about him going to church and all this other stuff, that I was just like, that's
going to be incorporated into a bit.
It's absolutely ho gospel. It's actually a decent song, but it's but so that it's kind of stuff like that, and then I try to like build something out of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times there's nothing there. Like, it's a funny situation, kind of like you had to be there type of thing. And there's a lot of things like that. But then there's a lot of things that build into like a solid joke, that they originated in truth or real life, and you build them to tell a story from there. So
yeah, when you're doing a show, what are you working with? Like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes?
Well, not that long. Generally 10 to 15.
10, okay.
Like open mic stuff's real short, 5 minutes max. Generally,
they're trying to get a lot of people through.
Comedy competitions, 10 minutes. I've done 15.
Is it hard to carry on for 15 minutes?
Yeah, it's rough. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, for me, because especially I'm trying to stay away from notes, because it's a crutch. If I had like a set list and I could kind of like just look at 2 words and get back to it, but it's very distracting. But then it's really distracting for you to forget your set too. So,
yeah.
I need to do it more to be kind of like more, tuned into it. But yeah.
What do you find more difficult, coming up with the concepts and the jokes, or the delivery?
I don't know. I mean, it really depends. A lot of times what I try to do at these shows is I try to call back to something that we've all experienced together at the show, basically. Right. So if a comedian said something, I'll try to call back on that, or I'll try to make a comment on the DJ or something in the environment. And so I'll kind of front load it with stuff like that, and then I'll roll into my material. So it's not hard for me to come up with different things on the fly. And I don't know, I mean, delivery, It's hard with the delivery if I'm forgetting my set, but because I've already came up with it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's probably a mixture of both. I mean, it just depends on the situation.
Sure.
But I'm real good at I'm almost better at, like, it's easier if I'm in a group of like 10 people, it's better for me to like rag on everybody in the group than it is for me to, like, crowd work is hard because people don't really want to participate. So you can't really it looks like everybody wants to participate on like Facebook when you see those reels of people doing crowd work, but they don't want to participate. And a lot of times people who want to participate, you don't want them talking because they won't shut the hell up. So, I'll like try to make a callback on one of the DJs or something. I said, this is what I asked what church they got him from, and because he was not the best DJ, and then I said, this is what happens when black kids that are into paleontology get into DJ work, and it the crowd died. So I do stuff like that. Like Superbad Jones had he had like a t-shirt and shorts, and they looked like Miami, like a landscape of Miami, both of them together. And I said, when you pre-order Grand Theft Auto, you get that outfit for free.
That's funny.
And so, like, I'll try to front load it with stuff like that because we're all experiencing this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my, stupid jokes about my childhood or whatever else, like, that might not get anybody because they might not understand.
Right.
But we all see this guy in this goofy-ass outfit, and we can all take a minute to appreciate that.
Sure.
So that's kind of what I try to do. And I think maybe if you're on a bigger stage or something that might not work as well. But I mean, I'm probably never going to be in an arena. So I'm just dealing with people in Greenville and Athens and whatever.
Yeah, sure.
So Spartanburg.
Yeah, I hear you. Let me circle back just on one more thing. This is kind of about your time all over the U.S. because you've been several places. Like you said, born and raised in Oconee County. Moved to Utah, spent considerable time in California, bought a house in North Carolina in 17, and you sold that place in 22 and came back to Oconee to which you've already said, you were going through a breakup at the time, but you were looking for a place that you could have a shop in your house. So I got 3 questions for you on that. Number 1, what took you from South Carolina to Utah? Because that's quite a move. 2, what was the motivation to go from Utah further west to California? And 3, why was it better to build a house and shop back here in Oconee instead of just doing it in North Carolina?
Well,
and I can repeat those if you need.
No, I think I got them. But so the move from South Carolina to Utah was work based. I'd went out there for a job just randomly, and went to Price, Utah, as like a 19-year-old kid working at a power plant as an instrumentation fitter, which bends like tubing for hydraulic and pneumatic controls and stuff. And so I went out there for that, and really wasn't a journeyman, yet. I was kind of pretending to be, but was lying, like most people do when they first break out in an industry. And I kind of struggled through that job and got a layoff eventually, when the job come to an end. And then I went to another job in Provo, Utah. And then I ended up going to Wyoming and kind of working more with pipe fitters and everything. And then I migrated back because, it was just kind of, these jobs are like temporary, right? So I migrated back, but my heart was like in Utah for some reason. Like I just felt like that's where I needed to be. Like it was such a beautiful place. I had a lot of fun there.
I've never been there.
Yeah, it's nice. There's a lot of shades of brown in that state, but as far as, it's like the whole place a desert. So
yeah,
it's but it's a beautiful place. And I'd went there in the winter, and it was, snowing everywhere. And like, around here, you're not used to snow. So I kind of was always like wanted to go back. And so I made my way back out there, and then I ended up meeting a girl while I was out there, and then, got with her, and we were together for a while, and that kind of kept me there. And then we broke up, and then I met another girl, and then that, just you kind of get established in a spot, and then you keep meeting women, like, wish I'd have met a woman somewhere else to get out of there. But I had friends, and I started kayaking while I was out there. And I kind of had like, a support system, and I enjoyed Utah. So I was comfortable, but the work started slowing down. And so I was kind of bouncing around. Like I would be in Idaho, and I'd kayak in Idaho probably more than I did Utah. And I worked up in Idaho a little bit, Wyoming a little bit, Nevada. I worked a big solar plant in Nevada that was like pretty life-changing for the time. And it was, and in 2015, shortly after I built that knife, actually, I went to a job in Kentucky just to work with a buddy of mine. And then from that job, I was going to a class to become a certified welding inspector. So I left that job, went to the class, took my certified welding inspector test, bought a new truck, not a new truck, but a new to me truck.
New to you.
And a travel trailer, sold my other truck and travel trailer, and started looking for a job as a quality control guy. And then I just happened to get a call from a buddy of mine to go to California. So I ended up going to California for a refinery job.
What part?
Carson, like Long Beach area. And so I go down there, and I had just split up with my ex, and then I made the biggest mistake of my life. I met my other ex, and so I end up with her, and then I'm in California. So she's from California, so I'm stuck in California. So I worked in California for a little while, and then
in 15?
16. So
we were there at the same time. I was in Cucamonga.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There you go.
Anyway.
Yeah. So I went there in the beginning of 16 because 15, 16, like early 16, I was in France, like on a vacation trip for like a month. Then I come back. Me and my girl had a falling out. We split. I go to California, and then I meet this girl, and then I'm in California for a while. But anyway, we ended up hitting a job like in the Northeast, and then kind of moving around the Northeast for a little while, and then decided to like drive down to see my mom, and then just looked at a house on the way down, ended up buying the house, like a realtor's dream, like looked at 2 houses and bought the most expensive one.
Yeah, if that's you, call me.
I wish I'd have known you before I bought this barn dominium that I'm building, but I'll have you sell it when I'm ready.
Yeah, man.
I'm going to wait till the market goes up on barn dominiums because it's getting popular out here now.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but anyway, so that's kind of how I bounced around. Like, it was mainly work driven.
Yeah, that's what it sounds
all
like.
of it's work driven. I spent a lot of time in a lot of different places, and I've seen the good parts and the bad parts of this country. A lot of them. I'm missing about 9 states. I haven't been to 9 states, but haven't been to Hawaii, but I've been to Alaska. So, there's a lot of beauty in this country. So.
Yeah.
And I've been fortunate to see a good bit of it.
Yeah. And so you wind up back in North Carolina, bought a house there, but decided to move. It was just, could you not find what you needed in North Carolina as far as building your shop?
Well, I looked for a lot of places up in North Carolina, and I kept looking for like a smaller house with a bigger shop. And if it had a 2,000 square foot shop, it was a 4,000 square foot house.
Mm.
If it had a 5-car garage, it was a 5,000 square foot house, or it was, $900,000.
Right.
And I kind of had to make a decision. Like, the interest rates were going to rise like in weeks, and it was going to, like cost me a few extra points or whatever, whatever that is. And then it was, and I needed somewhere to put my stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, whatever, I got to find something. And I kept just looking up shop, barn dominium, something. And I was like, workshop, shed, something, anything. Because I needed about, my old shop was 600 square feet, and I needed about 1,000. So I'd have been happy if I found a 3-car garage or something. And I finally, this thing popped up, and it was a 6,000 square foot metal building, and it's like 25 foot tall. And I decided it would be wise to build basically like a 2,500 square foot house inside of it, and underneath have like a 1,200 square foot shop. And then I've got 4,000 square feet left over. So I feel good when I invite buddies over, like guy friends, and they're like, dude, this is the dream. And I'm like, all right, maybe I'm going in the right direction here. But
yeah.
It's very, very stressful building anything.
Yeah.
And I've had to do a lot of the work myself. I've had to hire a bunch of it out, and I don't trust anybody because I'm a perfectionist. So it's a struggle, and I'm still working on it, but it's getting there. But yeah, it's mainly because I couldn't find a shop that I wanted. Or if I did find a shop, the kitchen was dog shit, and I like cooking. So so I've got the kitchen I want. I'm going to have the shop that I want.
Yeah.
I'm lake adjacent. That's what I call it.
Oh, sweet.
You can use that.
Yeah.
I can see the lake from my place, but I'm not on the lake. So it's nice. You know, I mean, I got access to a boat ramp. So it's, I think if I bought a boat, I'd like to place a lot more.
Yeah.
Because I could be in the water in 5-10 minutes.
Sure. No, that's awesome. All right, man. Well, I think we about cooked this bird, man.
Yeah,
I think we're good. Now, the downside, you know, you were saying before we started the show that if you were going to smoke a cigar, today would be the day. And while I would normally agree with you and agreed with you at the time, I wish I'd have thought ahead to say, it's going to be difficult for you because you're going to have to talk a lot as the guest. And that's exactly what happened. You didn't get too far in that cigar. But, Phil, you can take that with you and smoke it.
Well, I plan on it.
Later.
Honestly, I'll be honest with you. I'm going to do my best not to get into the hobby of it because it's expensive. But I'll smoke another cigar for sure because it was actually better than I thought because you're not inhaling. You're just bringing it into your mouth. You're just tasting
flavor
it.
thing.
It's solely flavor profile. I've never had any nicotine in my life. I don't feel like jittery. I don't feel sick. Like nothing. I've kind of barely hit it too. But
you didn't get much.
But yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Nice. I think that was the Montecristo half Corona that he had. I had the AJ Fernandez Nicaragua series. I'm not going to belabor it, but just to say this, just about everything AJ Fernandez puts his fingers into winds up being amazing. So great cigar. Last time, the website was
just Keown Fine Folders at .com.
And it was Keown KEOWN _fine _folders on Instagram.
Yes.
And what's the Facebook?
Just my name, Daniel Keown.
Daniel Keown. All right. Yeah, you can check him out there. One of the things I always ask my guests is just for a few interview recommendations, man. A couple of people you think might be good to come on.
Well, let me think about that. Local people. I'm not sure.
That's fine. You can shoot them to me later.
I'll shoot them to you later. Let me think. You put me on the spot. I wish I'd have known that one. I'd have had something for
No, that was that's my fault. I was running behind getting the show notes over to you, so everything was a little bit of a mystery.
I bet you I could get you some people over, for sure. But yeah.
Yeah, man. I really, the podcast is super fun, very casual, and just.
I will say this. I don't know if you'd be interested in it or not, but so my girlfriend works at Restaurant 17 in Travelers Rest.
Okay.
And I know you had a chef on recently, but the chef there, his name's Hayden, and he is an amazing chef. And like I said, I'm not sure if he'd be interested in it, but he's a very interesting guy, and he is a top-notch chef.
Yeah, I've interviewed several chefs, and I've got, I'm sure more will be coming down the pike. So, yeah, certainly. All right, look, if you are in need of my services as a realtor or with the Cigar Box, you can get me directly at 864-207-2316. You can visit mobilecigarbox.com to check me out, fill out the booking inquiry form. You can follow me on social media at Mobile Cigar Box on Instagram or at Sunday Afternoon Smokes. If you'd like to set up a consultation about real estate, you can shoot me an email to cstrother@cdanjoiner.com. And I appreciate you listening to Sunday Afternoon Smokes. Share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it on your socials. Share it with the world, man, because it's super fun. Daniel, thanks for carving out a few hours on a Tuesday to sit with me.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. I had a good time. Hope you did too.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, man. Y'all take it easy, and we will be back with another episode very soon.